Well, welcome everyone to another NAMI at noon. It's been a while. We're excited to be back. My name is Amy Brundle. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for NAMI North Carolina, and we are so pleased to have everybody in attendance for today's webinar. First of all, as always, we'd like to thank the North Carolina Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services for their support of this and all of our NAMI at noon webinars. And a couple of housekeeping items. If you have questions for today's panelists, we just ask that you would put them either in the chat or in the Q&A section at the bottom so that we have access to that and that we can get to those towards the end of the session. Also, we have one change to our speaker lineup today. Chief Boyce had an unexpected scheduling conflict, which I'm sure comes with the territory. So we are joined instead by Lieutenant David Davis, who is a veteran officer with the Raleigh Police Department and member of the Chief's Public Affairs Office. And so now I'm going to introduce our panelists. Lieutenant Davis started with the Raleigh Police Department way back in 2006. He's worked in field ops, special ops, and internal affairs in the Chief's office before joining the public affairs team. He's certified in CIT and Veterans CIT. Lieutenant Davis holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice from Strayer University and an Associate's degree in Business Admin from SUNY Delhi. He also graduated from the West Point Leadership Program, FBI LEADA Trilogy, and is a U.S. Army combat veteran, having served in the Iraq War in 2003 and 4. He started in the Raleigh Police with the 86th Academy, which I understand is the same as Sergeant Horner. And
It's a
Sergeant Madeline,
correction. It was the 89th Academy.
89th.
I'm sorry.
I'm so
Yeah,
sorry. 89th
that's okay.
Academy. Okay.
Yeah.
So started in the 89th Academy, same as Sergeant Horner, who is joining us, has been with the Raleigh Police Department for more than 17 years. She has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from App State and a master's degree in clinical counseling and psychology from Capella. Currently, she serves on the Critical Incident Stress Debriefing Team and believes strongly in the value of mental health care and community support networks, which is largely what we're going to be talking about today. Currently, she's assigned to the police department ACORNS unit, and we'll get into more about what that is, as part of a co-responder model. So she supervises team members who respond to homelessness, substance use, and mental health concerns for local citizens and connects those people to service providers for a holistic care response. So welcome to you both. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
So I want to get to our panel discussion by just kind of talking a little bit about some of the priorities for the Raleigh Police Department and how some of those have changed with the kind of transition to Chief Boyce as your chief of police. What have been some of the top priorities for the department with this change of leadership?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. Yes. So Chief Boyce, when he took over, he did develop 5 strategic priorities that he was going to basically use to answer all of his issues that he has throughout his tenure as a chief of police. Breaking them down one by one, probably the most important one to him is going to be his officers, right? Officer wellness is going to be a very important topic of conversation. We have the wellness unit. They're in charge of actually coming up with different initiatives as well as activities to kind of help officers when they run into any issues with their home life, with their work life, just to kind of assist them. A couple things that are coming up shortly. We have a seminar at Wake Med where officers are going to be getting some resiliency and wellness training.
Mm.
That's going to be offered to any officer that wishes to do that. And then we also are going to be bringing in Strayer University to kind of talk about different types of educational opportunities to help officers progress through their future and their careers here in the Raleigh Police Department. As far as our staff, we do have a paid psychologist on staff that can meet with officers at will. We have a trauma counselor. We have an eye care team. The eye care teams consist of different pastors throughout the city in different congregations. We actually had an eye care event not too long ago where everybody came together in one setting, and it was a really nice get together with the officers, with the community members. Chief Boyce was there in attendance, and it was a really nice outing that we had. We also have, for our critical incidences, a critical incident stress debrief team. being in internal affairs, it's obviously very important to have a unit like this that's actually been in critical incidences that have experienced trauma, where we can call in some of these officers that have been through these experiences just to help those officers that just went through. It could be an excessive use of force, it could be an officer involved shooting, something along those lines, where we can lean on the other officers in the department to be able to come in and assist them through that traumatic experience. And then if it goes further, a personal one-on-one basis, so our officers feel that they are supported by one another. And then we don't ever want to leave out our families, right? There's a lot of stress that falls on the families, and we have a unit that's families behind the badge, and they actually will come together and they will host. Oh, did I break apart? Am I good? Sorry. Okay. And those units will actually put together different types of activities for families to be able to come in. Usually it's going to specialize around Christmas time, around Thanksgiving, Halloween, and they'll put together different types of events like that just to kind of help the families and support them. So that's our community. That's our officer wellness. Going in behind that, our community engagement is another one of Chief Boyce's strategic priorities, and that's really he is very community engagement is a very important tool for him. He has brought back Cops on the Block. He has brought back Raleigh Hoops Night. We're also doing Coffee with a Cop. That's actually a big national day tomorrow. Ironically enough, it times up pretty well with this. But we have youth mentors that we have going on right now. And then we actually get out there with Grizzy Fitness. They've invited us a couple times to come out. But the community engagement part of it, just being able to get out from behind our offices, be out of our vehicles, being able to interact with our community members, it's so important to build that trust, that transparency, so that we actually have an opportunity to intervene earlier on when anybody starts having potentially some mental health issues in their day to day. So
Mm.
being able to know that they can lean on the police officers that they interact with day in and day out is very important, and that's why the community engagement aspect of Chief Boyce's strategic priorities are so important. The next strategic priority is leadership and accountability. As an organization, we want to make sure that we are leading from the front. We want to come up with different ways that we can get out there and interact with our community members. We can interact with those that need some assistance, the intervention. So being able to have ACORNS, right? That's a unit that not many have across the country. Being able to have that in our police department, because that's an incredible tool to use. But then also the accountability portion of it. We need to look outside of Raleigh, other agencies, other organizations, see how they are doing it. And then we can actually adopt those principles, bring them in, and continue to improve, because that's what it's all about, is just trying to constantly improve what you're doing so that you can meet more and more people and their needs. Organizational efficiency. Chief Boyce, he has created the community engagement division, and I'm going to go into a little bit more of that later on, but that's going to house a lot of our units that deal specifically with our community. Obviously,
Mm.
ACORNS is going to be in that division. Our community squads will be in that division. Our school resource officers will be in that division. And it's Chief Boyce's vision, for the police department, bringing all of them together. It seems like it's very simple, and it really was, but he is the one that did that. He brought all those units, put them in the same division so that they can all work together. They can communicate. I mean, we're talking about having schools. We're talking about having our unhoused. Talking about having our adults, our families. Everybody's going to be able to talk to each other and figure out different ways that they can improve upon meeting our community members through that community engagement division. And then lastly, his last strategic priority is crime reduction strategies. And this one is honestly the easiest one out of all of them. Because when you start looking at the first four strategic priorities, and when you're operating as fluidly and efficiently as that we are right now as an organization because of Chief Boyce, the crime reduction strategies, it makes it that much easier. I mean, our stats across the board are down this year compared to last year. And you really have to fall back on Chief Boyce's strategic priorities, all and what he is doing as far as trying to engage with the community, the different types of the organizational changes that he's making to help meet the community's needs, but also, being able to come back through and follow up with what the community needs from us. So, no, it's a very exciting time at the Raleigh Police Department, and Chief Boyce's vision for the police department is not only just this week, next month. He's looking 5, 10, 15 years out from now, and these changes that he's implemented are really going to impact the city in a much positive way, very positive way.
Yeah. I love the focus on making sure that you're proactively reaching out to the community. That's so important. And the officer wellness, making sure that our police and our first responders are taken care of because so often they fall through the cracks. So so how have
Yeah,
you
and
oh,
and
go ahead.
oh, just to fall back on that, the officer
Hmm.
wellness portion of it. I mean, he knows, we all know how important it is that our officers are our number one resource in a police department, and in order for them to do their job successfully, and to meet and serve our community, we need to make sure that they are mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually well as well.
Hmm.
So it really is a huge priority of the chiefs and the rest of ours as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of being mentally well, how have you seen mental health as a general concept and as, community need to be met, kind of grow in awareness and importance during your law enforcement career?
Yeah, so it's a good question. Being in the military, I was served in Iraq in 2003 to 2004. Mental health really was not something that was discussed, right? As a society, as a culture, it was really a don't ask, don't tell type
Mhm.
thing. Even when I started here in Raleigh in 2006, I would say it's about the same thing, and that has changed dramatically, which is a great thing. As a society, we're becoming much more open with our health, with our mental health, and kind of what we're going through and what we're experiencing. Because in law enforcement, you so much, but that really gives you an opportunity to meet the community members at their needs because you've been through a lot of that, you've experienced a lot of that, you've helped people through those situations. So it really helps educate you and give you that experience to be able to give back. And I think just from a society alone, like I said, it's much more open, much more accepting, and that's been very helpful, for our officers. It's been very helpful in interacting with the public because it's no longer a don't ask, don't tell,
Mhm.
right? Everybody is much more open and accepting, and I think that's been the biggest change from when I first started to right now. And but no, it's a very good question.
So, how do you all at the police
Did I
department?
freeze?
No, I think you're okay. Yeah. How all do you all think that law enforcement should be part of the mental health conversation? How have you seen kind of the typical response to mental health crises change over the years?
I think is mine breaking up. Can you say your question one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. So, talking about mental health awareness and that becoming more a part of the conversation, how do you think law enforcement should be responding to that? And have you seen that response change over the years?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely improved over the years. As far as our officers, the training that they receive, they get CIT training. Eventually, we actually grew that training into a focus on veterans. I've been through both CIT and veteran CIT training, and it's a really good resource to have and have that training in that background. But again, really the experiences that our officers are receiving day in and day out, that has been the biggest tool for officers to have, and just being able to learn from those things and continue to evolve, as your career progresses and how you interact with the public, especially people that are in distress, and being able to help them. And then officers just, you know, when you get those tools and you start to develop those relationships with different organizations and knowing who you can lean on and who you can fall back on, that's when it becomes even easier for the officers. And this just really comes with training and experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think it's important to understand that the mental health and community engagement aspect, the officers are bringing a more community focused response, and it's a more collaborative response to mental health concerns. And that's where the hard desire for the training comes from, with the CIT program and the veteran CIT program, the new youth CIT program, and de-escalation training. So we're really listening to the community and trying to reintegrate with the community as we address the mental health concerns and things that are community issues together.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, can you tell us a little bit more about the department's strategies for improving some of these crisis response and continuing to keep working with the community and how you guys are implementing some of those strategies?
Yeah, I'll let Sergeant Horner as well fill in after I'm done because I know she could talk about a lot of the strategies that are going on right now. But obviously, we're always trying to improve with the strategies as far as how we're responding to people in crisis. ACORNS is a big step. It's a step that not many departments have, you know. So I just want to say just how important that is to us as an agency. But we do want to lean on their expert advice in implementing different changes in what they see, what they experience, and what they need from the department as a whole for support. Our community engagement division that Chief Boyce did, had a vision for and did implement, um, bringing those units together. I mean that this is something that is happening right now. This division. So when we bring those units together, I think it's going to really um, help that cohesive group of officers and the different types of groups that they're going to be interacting with, whether it's our schools, whether it's our families, different juvenile groups that are going to be needing help and assistance. I think that's going to be a big step forward that not many organizations are looking at. They're going to probably still have a lot of those different units broken up, but now that we're having them all under the same roof, that collaborative effort as far as communicating with each other and trying to figure out how they can all interact with those groups is going to be a big help. And I think that's going to really improve as far as interacting and responding to people in crisis.
I agree, 100%. The collaborative nature of what the police department is doing is the biggest strength that we have. We're collaborating better with each other. We're collaborating better with the community. And because we're breaking down all the siloed information systems, we're better able to actually have a full view of what's out there, what's possible. And the thing that I love about the Raleigh Police Department the most is that we're never satisfied with just what the best practice is. We're always looking to make that best practice a better practice.
Mhm.
So we're going to take and we're going to see and we're going to do research studies, and we'll participate in studies to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and then really take that to the next level um, with our engagement.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we've kind of heard bits and pieces about the Acorn project, so I want to dive into that in a little bit more detail. So, Sergeant Horner, can you tell us kind of how you got involved with this project to start with?
Absolutely. So I was one of the original officers that was selected for this unit. And some of that came about because my previous assignment was as part of what is now the Trace team in the Central Business District of downtown, which operates very heavily around Go Raleigh Station. And so I would see and interact with people in the marginalized communities and the unsheltered communities, and it was the same people very regularly, and I got to intimately understand their struggles and what they were dealing with, and seeing that there were some niche things that needed to be fixed in order to get this person to their next better self. And when the Acorns unit came around, we're looking at it from a care and safety first standpoint, and trying to make sure that we're seeing the people where they are, we're meeting the people where they are, and we're connecting them to the right resources, not just what's there, but what meets their needs, and treating them as a whole individual, um, I felt really strongly about that, and I saw the advantages of taking a really tailored approach to each person and preventing that person from becoming just another invisible, vulnerable individual and helping them to be seen by the greater community. Um, Obviously, I have a lot of passion about trying to connect our citizens and really engage with people. And the ACORNS unit to me was the next evolution of community policing and law enforcement, bringing in social workers who can provide niche services and who know all of the things that law enforcement doesn't know about what providers can do and what they can't do, and how to connect with people in a non enforcement related way was really important. And being able to build those bridges, I love to see things move forward and progress. So knowing that this was the next evolution, I very much wanted to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us in a bit more detail what ACORNS is, what that acronym stands for, and kind of what you guys are doing on a regular basis?
Yes, that would be my pleasure. ACORNS is addressing crises through outreach, referrals, networking, and service. Um, we're the city of Oaks, and so we wanted our name to reflect our purpose, which is to grow and help people to grow from a tiny individual into a greater system and community and extend the branches to um, take care of everything that's around it. So the
Mhm.
acorns was really important to us when we were developing our name. And our unit is very different than some of the other alternative response models you might see. One, because we are housed inside of the actual police department. We're not part of a community safety organization, and we're not through a mental health provider. But the other thing that makes our unit very special is that we looked at from the beginning that many of the things that cause a crisis are co occurring with other things. And so we didn't want to focus simply on mental health. We also wanted to address substance use, and we also wanted to address unsheltered individuals, because so often we've seen, and other jurisdictions have seen, that these things co occur. They don't always, but often enough that we wanted to have a firm grasp on the needs of all three of those things. And as the co-responder models or the alternative response models extend throughout the nation, we're starting to see that those units that focused on one thing are starting to expand now, and they're starting to bring in focuses for the other two areas. So, as far as I'm concerned, Acorns was the first, and we're right on track with leading the way in how to provide a tailored, holistic response to the individuals.
Mhm.
Um, and so we answer live 911 calls. We have a officer who is paired directly with a social worker, and they respond to calls together, and they respond to referrals or follow-ups together, to make sure that everyone is safe, everyone feels safe, that the response is appropriate, and that the correct services are identified and connections are made.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you all faced when you were really getting this project up and running? And are you still facing some of those challenges in the community?
So, one of the biggest challenges was actually the cultural brokerage between law enforcement and the community. And so, we did a lot of work on the front end of engaging with the community providers and seeing what they wanted from a co response team, and engaging with community groups to see what they would want from a co response team, and engaging with the police department to find out what it would want from its co response team. And so, we spent a lot of time building the relationships on the front end. So we had an easier time integrating into the community continuum of care in Wake County than some other models do, where they launch it, but they haven't had the discussions to tailor what they're doing to what the community is actually asking for.
Hmm.
So we spent a lot of time working on that, which I think was very smart. But the biggest issue that we still struggle with is the same issue that it's a nationwide problem. There is a lack of affordable housing. There are a lack of service beds. There are a lack of mental health resources for everyone to go around. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to help people develop the skills or maintain the connections that will last them until the greater resources are available.
Yeah. So, I'm assuming that after having this go for a little while, you've got some success stories to share of people that you've served in the community who, you've seen get the resources that they need and they're thriving, they're moving on with their lives. Do you mind sharing some of those with us?
I would love to do that. The first one that comes to mind was a gentleman, and you can actually see his story on the Raleigh Police website. There should be a link for that. But his name was Nick, and he was a military veteran. However, because his service was in the National Guard and far enough back, this was before the Guard was integrated into the VA system, his service didn't qualify him for VA benefits.
Mm.
And so when we met him, we were able to first establish what his VA history was to see what other groups that might be able to address his needs. And then finding out that he wasn't eligible for one resource, found other resources that picked it up. So we had within 2 months found him stable housing, better health care, and his basic needs were met. He was receiving his government benefits after we worked with him. So we were very proud of that, and that was really wonderful. But it can be even smaller than that, where when we first began, there was a gentleman, he was in his 60s. He had lived here his whole life, but he had been brought here by his parents from England as a baby and didn't have any of his documents by the time he got to 60. So he couldn't get um, made a citizen. He couldn't even apply for citizenship because he didn't have a birth certificate and he didn't have a social security card and he didn't even have a government ID. Um, and because he came as a baby, he didn't remember, he didn't know where he could possibly find his birth certificate. So he'd spent years just languishing, invisible to the system. And then when we encountered him, we were able to do the research and call as many, places in Liverpool as we could find to figure out if he had been born at that hospital. And eventually we were able to get his birth certificate, and a service provider was kind enough to provide the funding to have it shipped to the US. And we were able to get him signed up so that he could get his government benefits and be made a full citizen and receive housing. So it's it's a lot of just the little things of making sure that people have that document that so many people take for granted, but it opens the doors to everything else.
So this is not a one-time crisis response. You come in, you respond to somebody in a moment, and then you disappear. This is a comprehensive, like multiple follow-ups, really trying to get somebody situated.
Yes. Yeah. And, there are some people who it might be they were just having a moment and we meet them one time and we get them connected with what they needed, or we meet that one service need and it's a very short relationship. But there are many who we have months long, years long relationships while we're working with them. And
Hmm.
even once connected, we don't like to just send people off, into the world. We'll still stay in touch to make sure, hey, is everything still going well? Is there something that we can help you with? Like, we really want to be part of their support network to make sure that, once we've got them out of the crisis and into a good place, that they're able to stay there and they
Hmm.
feel confident that they can stay there.
So, this is kind of a new question, but can you tell us a little bit more about the team that you guys are working with that's in the ACORNS unit, and then maybe some of the community partners that you all have established relationships with that help you in this work?
Sure. So the team that we have right now, I have 4 officers who are sworn Raleigh Police Department officers. There are 6 social workers that are hired in. Their Raleigh Police Department employees. There is a social work supervisor who's also a Raleigh Police Department employee, and then there's me. And so that's our, the meat and potatoes of our ACORNS unit. Um, and we team them up so that they can go and they can work different referrals, or we'll get complaint areas on encampments that we can go and we can respond to, and we can offer outreach in that capacity. I lost my train of thought.
Tell us a bit more about the community partners that you work with.
Community partners, yes, thank you. So we have, well, I like to say that we're the Angie's List of service providers, because we have a list. It's hundreds of providers long, so I couldn't do justice to all of them.
Hmm.
We have some that we work with more often or more regularly than others. Oak City Cares is one of our biggest partners, and biggest community advocates. When people have questions about us or what we're doing, Oak City Cares, for those who don't know, is a one-stop service shop for unsheltered individuals where they can get connected to health care, benefits. There's showers, there's laundries, there's meal services on weekends. They have mental health care there, and a whole slew of providers who can help with housing resources and things like that. So it's a great resource for anyone who's unsheltered and needs some assistance. We also work very closely with Healing Transitions and Southlight. They both have excellent substance programs, and also can help to tailor for housing needs and additional services like that. We are a member of the Wake County Continuum of Care. So we partner with everybody who's part of that. But as part of the Continuum of Care, there are several entities that have what we call street outreach teams. And ACORNS is listed as one of the street outreach teams. So we do directed street outreach to unsheltered individuals with some of the other street outreach teams when we get notified of encampments in certain areas to try and get people connected and into housing. So we collaborate with numerous other street outreach teams, and those kind of collaborations can be smaller encampment things, or they can be like the larger Acorns Connects Downtown Communities events that is on October 14th. It'll be in Moore Square from 10 to 2. I highly recommend that anybody who is interested come down. And there we can bring together as many providers as we can. I think we have 50 or 60 providers signed up this time, and it ranges from mobile vet, barbershop, direct service needs, legal aid, veterans affairs, um, mental health, housing resources, substance treatment, the mobile donation, blood donation buses there, so people can donate blood and then they can get a gift certificate to do that. We have volunteers who will help create the online emails and things that people need to recover that, and do resumes while we're there. So like it's a really great, and use this word, collaborative event, that brings in, a lot of our service provider friends that uh, could benefit people. And then also, obviously, NAMI is one of our big partners, and Alliance Mental Health, who runs the CIT program. And we teach one of the blocks in the CIT program to help, partner that and then make sure that that's in alignment with the law enforcement parts of that program.
Right. Awesome. Um, okay, so what do you think, and this is probably a very broad question, but what do you think, and this can be for both of you, are some of the biggest outstanding needs in our community when it comes to mental health support?
I'm going to have to go back to services. Um, there are a lot of individuals who need better access to services and more tailored services. So there's only so many. Um, I can't remember the acronym for the ACT teams, but there are teams that will go and they will walk with a person while
Mhm.
they're navigating how to live with their mental health concerns. And there's simply not enough of them. They can only carry a caseload of 15 people, but we understand that, that's not a significant amount. So having the access to all of the mental health care needs at the time that they're needed is really one of the biggest challenges, and one of the things that would open a lot of doors, um, if we had a better solution for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, our chat and questions have kind of blown up. So I think that we should start digging into some of the audience questions here. So just to get started, um, so somebody
I saw a
mentioned,
question.
oh yeah, absolutely.
I saw a question from Amy, I think her name was,
Hmm.
asking about autism training. And yes, I'm glad she actually asked that question because when I took over as the public information officer for the police department very early on, Chief Boyce made this a priority. I know we're heading into the end of 2025, but you can understand a lot of our training blocks have been filled up. But we are actually on schedule for January and April for this training. And we're actually bringing in the Interaction Advisory Group, who specializes in law enforcement training and how officers can safely, not only safety for the officers, but safety for and the autistic person that they might be dealing with. And we're going to offer up stickers, emblems that community members can have that they can apply to their vehicles just to identify that there might be somebody inside that vehicle that might be autistic, so that the officers that now have been fully trained on how to deal with somebody that could be autistic, but also it provides that knowledge going back and forth and that transparency that we're trying to look for, just to help that people understand that the Raleigh Police Department takes it seriously, and we're going to be fully trained on that after April.
Great. We had several questions about how to, if somebody's calling in 911 because of a mental health crisis, how they can best get a hold with somebody who is either CIT trained, part of the ACORNS unit, or just especially knowledgeable about de-escalating the crisis.
So if it is an emergency, you always have to go through 911
Hmm.
and make sure that all of the right responders are available. It never hurts to ask for what you want. So you can ask when you call 911 to say, I would like a CIT officer to respond. Is there an ACORNS unit that is available, or is there an alternative response model unit that is available to come and do this? And then the other thing is that you can provide the dispatcher with information so that the officers know before they get there, hey, I would like to brief the officers on this mental health condition and possible things that are triggers or mitigators before they talk to my loved one. And the officer can talk to you before they talk to them if it's the kind of situation where they have that kind of discretionary time.
Hmm.
More information is always better, and so if you lead up front with what you want them to know, it allows the officers to better tailor their response. Raleigh is very lucky, very special that almost all of our officers are CIT trained, and we are actively in the process of getting all of them CIT trained. So if your incident is inside of Raleigh, there's a good chance that you're going to get the kind of de-escalative tailored response that you were hoping for.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's great information. More information up front is better. Um, when the ACORNS unit comes out to respond to a mental health crisis, how are they able to us kind of give an assessment? Is that the work of your social workers that also attend?
It depends on what they mean by assessment. If they're talking about a clinical assessment,
Hmm.
ACORNS actually does not do that.
Yeah.
There are other alternative response models, like the Durham Heart model, where they have hired clinical social workers who will go and do a clinical assessment for diagnosis. Um, but their model is geared toward mental health crises alone.
Hmm.
And because we knew that we wanted to address more than mental health, we didn't hire clinical social workers because we wanted the social workers to have a broader scope of things that they could do and provide. So ACORNS does not do clinical assessments,
Hmm.
but we can and do connect them and do a warm handoff with whomever could do the clinical assessment. And we spend a lot of time building the relationship with that person to help them be comfortable with the idea of getting a full assessment and getting integrated into the greater mental health system.
Okay, great. And then we had several questions about how the police department is kind of strategizing, um, responding to BIPOC, to Indigenous communities, and if there's like a focus on uh, that kind of cultural competency within the department.
Actually, yes. When our unit was designed, it was designed by a social worker. She was in her PhD program, and she made culturally competent care part of our policy. So it's in the department's operating policy instructions that we be able to provide culturally competent care, or make a connection to someone who can provide better competent culturally competent care.
Hmm.
So we do make every effort to have a diverse response and an educated, informed response, so that again we're treating each person individually with what they need.
Hmm.
I could add a little bit to that. I know she did a really good job on answering it from that perspective. From the technology perspective, the Raleigh Police Department, we are looking at changing our body worn cameras, which will be able to actually interact with different languages. So that'll help in actually having the communication. And that's because that's a big thing, is being able to communicate with people in the city of Raleigh. So just to add on to that, I wanted to make sure I pointed that out as well. That is something that's coming down the road.
Yeah, I just heard about that technology being available. That's amazing. I can't believe that we've gotten that far with our technology. We had a question about the funding for the Acorns unit. And the person who asked is kind of assuming that this is a taxpayer funded, just like other initiatives within the police department. I don't know how much of that you guys can speak to.
Yeah, I mean the ACORNS unit is a unit in the police department,
Hmm.
funded just like every other police unit in our police department. So yeah, it would imagine it'd be the taxes that would be funding for all of our police units.
Right. And then we got a question about serving families with bullying in schools and communities. Do you all ever partner with the school system to address bullying or other school-related issues?
Acorn specifically has not.
Hmm.
I think that's something that we would be open to, but that's also the great thing about this community engagement division is that the school resource officers do. They are in the schools, and so they interact directly with the school system and the school administration to address those issues like in real time as they're happening. And the Youth and Family Services also has what was called the Leader Program, which, and please forgive, I don't know the acronym for what it is, but it's, again, it's officers coming in and teaching skills and mentorship opportunities for students in real time inside the schools. So we do partner within the schools.
And I could say from the public affairs standpoint, I mean, I have a very good relationship with the Wake County Public School System. Their lead security person, as well as their public information officer. And I do maintain contact with them throughout the week, where if something were to come up like that, I'm sure we could share resources that not only the police department has, but maybe even the Wake County Sheriff's Office, since they're going to be the ones that are going to be in all the middle schools as we're going to be in the high schools.
Hmm. Yeah. We had a question about whether or not the Raleigh PD is or has any interest in involving certified peer support specialists in any of your crisis response.
So, interestingly enough, that is happening just in a different view.
Hmm.
So, the Raleigh Cares program through the city manager's office, and it's partially launched, and it's growing and it's expanding. ACORNS is one of the four pillars for the Raleigh Cares program. The other pillar that is active and standing now is a peer support navigation unit. It's not
Mhm.
run through the police department. That one is run through the Department of Housing and Community Development. But they have three peer support specialists on staff who are working with individuals and trying to take care of that need. So it is in it is happening. It's just not happening directly inside the police department.
Right.
There's also, as part of the CARES program, and they should be in a good spot before the end of the year to finish their training, but there will be a crisis call diversion line as part of emergency communications. So if somebody is having a mental health crisis, they can call 911, and if it meets the safety criteria, it can be diverted to clinicians who will be stationed inside of the emergency communications department to do assessments and connect to services from that standpoint. So that's also a very exciting resource that will very soon be available to the community.
Hmm. Okay. I think the last question that I have down is suggestions for replicating the ACORNS unit or some of your other crisis response units in other areas, in other communities. So, what advice might you give to communities who kind of want to get something like this started, but maybe aren't as large as Raleigh or don't have the same kind of personnel, but still want to have the same level of comprehensive crisis response?
I would say the first step is identifying who the big stakeholders are and finding out exactly what they want from that unit. And it may look very different. You can't pick up one model and just drop it in a different city. So knowing who your stakeholders are, what they want, and what your resource capabilities are is the first step. So you got to do a lot of research and benchmarking before you try to launch a unit like this.
Mhm.
I do think that there's room for this kind of response in every jurisdiction, so long as you tailor it to what you can actually provide with what you can um, meet the community with.
Mhm.
I'll add on there too. I mean, just trying to think outside the box. I mean, we have mutual aid agreements with multiple police departments in Wake County. I mean, across the state. I mean, our hazardous devices unit, I think, can go up and down the East Coast. You know, so if there's a small agency just outside of Raleigh, and they might have, you know, maybe a couple specific locations where they might need some help. I mean, they could always try to do a mutual aid agreement with us and try to use our one of our units like ACORNS for some help and just to try to see, you know, there's always other options out there other than trying to financially create a unit within a town or a jurisdiction. You know, just always all you got to do is ask, and we can try
Mhm.
to see if we can work together.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And if there's anybody on the call who wants to specifically talk about what they're looking at in their community, I'm always available for a Zoom chat or, some kind of meeting where I can sort of walk through some of the finer points of our unit and what we do and how we're structured to try and see, what they can take away from that for their jurisdictions.
Yeah, and I can send out I'll be sending out the recording of this session as well as any additional resources that our speakers provide and can send out that contact information as well. So if you'd like to reach out for further questions or to find out, more about getting this started in your community, then you can reach out to them. So, is there anything else that you guys would like to kind of close on about either your experiences with this or you know, your hopes for the future of what the Raleigh Police is doing?
Um, I will say my experience has been just so positive and very rewarding. And I'm so excited by the growth steps that we're making and how much closer the police department is to the community now. I believe Acorns is a big part of that. And I really can't wait to see us fully integrated back into the community and just having more collaborative conversations with all of our friends.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'll just add, that the Raleigh Police, we are the community, and the community is the police. We need to work together to accomplish any of these goals. We always have to have the open communication, open dialogue, and on how we can improve communication, as well as how we can just try to reach out there and help as many people as we possibly can. So we're all in this together.
absolutely. And we really appreciate you guys giving of your time today. I know you're incredibly busy doing this important work in the community, but we really appreciate you giving of your time and just kind of sharing what the department is doing, what your priorities are, and the successes that you've seen. We understand from this that mental health and holistic community response kind of takes so many different people working together. And so uh, any part of that NAMI North Carolina can play, of course, we're here to play that role as well. I'm going to put our helpline information in the chat for everybody. So please feel free to reach out to us with any questions, and also uh, check out our website as well for any future events that we have that might have to do with CIT. We also do some training and some support of CIT training going on across the state. And so we're really excited to partner with law enforcement and see all this great work being done. So of course, thank you everybody for attending. We really appreciate it. Um, and I would encourage you to keep an eye out for an email by Thursday, where I'll again send this recording and any other information that the speakers would like to share. We also want to encourage you to check out that event on October 14th with the ACORNS unit. And also keep an eye out for our next NAMI at noon, which is going to be this Thursday. We'll be talking to Dr. Shanita Brown about her experience serving survivors of domestic violence and what other therapists and peer support specialists can learn from those experiences. So until then, thank you so much, Sergeant Horner, Lieutenant Davis, for being here today. We really appreciate it. And we hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you. Take care.